Alright, welcome back to the channel, guys. It's me, Paco, again, and we're doing another basics of photography tutorial. And in this video we will look at the last of the three main controls in taking a photo, which is ISO. Now remember that this applies to photography in general, regardless of what camera you're using. You could be using a phone camera, a compact camera, a DSLR, or a mirrorless camera. These controls all more or less are generally the same. Alright, so ISO actually stands for International Organization for Standardization. It's not exactly ISO, but there's a whole story behind that. I'm pretty sure you can Google that. But there, the number rating was used to determine how sensitive film was to light. So the film inside the camera had an ISO rating. The higher that number, the more sensitive to light, meaning you can use it in a darker area and it'll give you a brighter, more properly exposed image despite the lack of light. Now, ISO on digital cameras controls how sensitive your sensor is to light. This normally starts. I'm too excited. I gotta slow down. This normally starts at ISO 100 and it can go up to 6400 and beyond. The higher the number, the more sensitive it is to light, meaning if you're in a dark area, you can get more or less a proper exposure despite the absence of light. So ISO is usually the last thing we adjust when we try to get a proper exposure, which is why it was the last topic we're talking about. And we normally adjust this if the image is underexposed or too dark. Two things happen when we're adjusting ISO. Again, the higher the ISO setting, the brighter, the more sensitive it is to light, so the brighter the image will be. But as we increase our ISO, the higher we go, we start to introduce noise and some other stuff, but we'll discuss that in a later time. Now, why is this important? We always want to get nice, clean, clear, crisp images. Generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, right? Now, as we start to look into how these three main controls tie into each other, shutter speed, aperture, and ISO, there may be times you want to use a higher shutter speed or a narrower aperture, or probably a combination of both, narrow aperture, high shutter speed. And we might be in situations that doing this will underexpose our image, give us a darker image than we want to, because there's not enough light. So in these situations, we want to increase ISO. Now, the reason it is the last control we adjust is because we start to introduce side effects we don't want. The most obvious being noise. There's a lot of other stuff, but noise is the most obvious thing we start to notice. Now, what is noise? Noise is distortion that could look like grainy, pixelated, miscolored patches in your photo. And depending on your camera, you might not notice this from ISO 200 to something like ISO 800, but the higher you go, the more you start to notice this, the more this becomes obvious. You start to see like grainy dots, red, blue, green, violet dots, and all that. And it might not be the sort of look you're going for. Now, it's different from grain, which what higher ISO on film gives you. It gives you a bit of a grain. Totally different. Grain and noise are not exactly the same. Again, we're not going to talk about that here, but that's the side effects of using higher ISO. Yeah, so that concludes this set of tutorial videos. We've talked about shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. If you think that this was helpful, especially for those getting started with photography, drop a like, subscribe. That sort of stuff does help the channel, helps me creating videos for you. And who knows, we might get into other tutorials in the future, and that means it's time for me to go. So yeah, until next time, see you guys around.